recorded.
Good evening. This is Chairman Mike McCoo, Town of Wellington Board of Finance, calling to order the meeting of Thursday, April 15th, 2021 at 7:07 p.m. I'm going to hold off on the seating of the alternates for a moment because Jeffrey, I think, is logging in right now. All right, in an effort to get us going, does someone have a motion to seat an alternate in place of Jeff until he arrives?
Motion,
Move that we,
Brenda?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to seat Brenda in place of Jeffrey. I don't think we need to discuss, no discussion on the motion, correct?
No discussion.
Okay, Matt,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Peter. Tanaka.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
Wake up.
Christina.
Yes.
All right, I vote yes.
Oh.
And by, I think we may have Jeff arriving here.
Everybody's looking at Jeff's little,
Yeah, his little lines moving there.
right. Follow the bouncing ball.
In the meantime, in an effort to keep the agenda going, Marissa is out of state for work currently, so we do not have any minutes to approve tonight, and Marissa obviously is not here with us tonight. In her place as our recording secretary is Eileen Smith, known in her little block on the screen as Eileen, and she has done this for many other boards. Here we are in good hands. Jeffrey, are you in?
I'm finally here.
Hey.
All right. Thank you. We seated Brenda in your absence to get going, but now welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Eileen, just note Jeffrey's arrival, please. Thank you. Okay. As I said, we don't have minutes to approve. Present to speak. Public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be limited to time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain decorum. So if there is anyone out there watching, viewing, joining this meeting who would like to speak, if you're in video, please wave your hand. Peter Latinchich.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. I just want to share with the board my concern about the 4.3% increase that was adopted at the last Board of Finance meeting following the public hearing. I think, like many townspeople, that kind of increase at a time of a large or grave economic recession in our community, in our state, is concerning, not just to me, but to many townspeople. I'm very interested to see how some of the funds might be applied from what you discussed at your last meeting when you paused action on the budget from the state, particularly the portion of that funding that applies to assisting businesses and other economic entities that may have suffered in our community. So I look forward to that discussion. And most importantly, I strongly encourage the Board of Finance to follow the Board of Selectmen, who at their last meeting indicated that a public hearing is in order prior to our town meeting, following whatever action occurs tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Others who are present to speak, if you are in video, turn it on and wave your hand. If you are not in video, please unmute and call out your name.
Hey, Mike, it's Jim Bulick,
Go ahead, sir.
Laurel Drive. I do want to echo Mr. Latinch's comments that I believe a public hearing is in order. This is very unusual. You guys conducted a public hearing a week. And after that public hearing, we had new information forthcoming from our leaders in Hartford and from the U.S. So I think we need to determine how this impacts our budget, what's going on. You know, there was talk that the library was looking for some internet upgrades. These funds are probably a wonderful use of that. So I just encourage, there's a lot we don't know, but I encourage you to conduct a public meeting, again, with the public, explain what's going on. This is this is rapidly changing information, and it's best to communicate that out and get that out to the public. I think it will serve everybody well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other present to speak? Okay, we're moving on to old business. Item 1, public health crisis update. Subpart A, potential effect on municipal budgets, including updated revenue report. The board members have the updated revenue report. For those of you who are looking to access it today, you may not have been able to get into your email. There was a upgrade going on during the night or early this morning that caused some sort of downstream failures, and email has been off and on all day. Hopefully those of you saw it before today and had a chance to review it. The one key item, and I can't bring it up on my screen either because it's stuck in my email, but the one key item that I will point out from memory is that we have passed the 98% collection, which was a good, it's a good marker for us because that's how we budgeted the current fiscal year. So with all the uncertainty we had a year ago going into this, I am glad that we budgeted a little more carefully on collection instead of going with our typical 99. We pulled back to 98 and the taxpayers have surpassed that mark. So if there's one check mark in our favor, I guess we should take that one. Erica, do you have anything else to add on about the revenue situation from the town's point of view? No? Okay. Anything else on this item, or is your update mostly in item C for the rescue plan? You're not coming through, Erica. Oh. Nothing. You're miming it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Most of my information will come in items B and C.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other board members, item A, discussion.
Just that if I'm looking at this correctly, and maybe Erica or Donna can confirm this, but with the gap in revenue between now and the end of the year, once the ECS money comes in, it looks like we won't be using all of the assigned fund balance. So there would be a significant chance, or there'd be a pretty good chance that we'd be retaining a lot of that in the fund balance, a lot of that 673,000 we assigned to this fiscal year. So is that right? I mean, is my reading of that correct? Donna?
Yes, I think on the revenue side of the budget, I think that the revenues will do better than budgeted. And I think on the expenditure side, we are going to spend less than budgeted. So yes.
Thank
So
you.
Steph, to speak to the part about how much of the fund balance, we will have to adjust somewhere in between expenses and revenues, and fund balance will have to adjust to accommodate that, but it's a good adjustment to be making.
Okay.
Other discussion? On All right, let's go to 1B, latest directives from the governor and how the remainder of the budget process might proceed. The part I can tell you is that Region 19 did elect to continue on with their budget process. So we are constrained by a certain calendar to have the townspeople approve that budget. However, because of this other information we've been working with since last week, since the last meeting, it doesn't seem anyway, and our discussion will continue on for other items this evening as to whether we should try to bring the whole budget through in that time frame. So as discussed last week, we're probably looking at having 2 budget approval events because we have to approve Region 19 within a certain amount of days. But we will not probably have our information on how to use the Rescue Plan money within that same time frame. So that's my contribution to the conversation. So open to the rest of the board members.
When will we have information on particulars regarding the American Rescue Plan? Yeah,
April, I'm sorry, Erica said the date a million times. I just can't remember it right now.
May 11th is the anticipated deadline. And so there's no word from Treasury on any guidance sooner than that. Certainly as it comes in, if we can make a change. So I can speak to the process. The Board of Selectmen on Monday night made a motion to alter based on the executive order. I shouldn't say alter. We adjusted the dates of the town meeting and the referendum to no later than June 30th. So the intent is not to take that length of time, but that was the time frame listed in the executive order. Once we get the information from the American Rescue Plan and Treasury, then we, certainly this board could then pick up where they left off. We did not alter the process or change the process. We merely paused and delayed the town meeting and the referendum. So yes, Mike, that would need to be 2 referendum. I will tell you that the town of Mansfield as well delayed their budget process. They're a town council form of government, so their process works differently. And the town of Ashford, I don't believe delayed, but their referendum is later in May already. So each of the 3 towns will hold just a Region 19 referendum on May 4th, and then their individual budgets after that. I did speak with our town attorney who was working on this effort with folks from the governor's office in conjunction with the executive order. And they do not feel it is at all necessary to have a second public hearing. The budget that was presented in your previous appropriations did not change. It would be then picking up where your board left off and making budget adjustments if needed, and then adopting the budget. So your board would then make changes to the budget that was presented and the budget that was presented to the public. And all of that would be in public meeting where you would talk about dollars that could be removed from this budget. I will tell you that it's very costly and time consuming to hold a second public hearing. There's opportunity for a public to speak at the beginning of your meetings, and you've been pretty vocal about making sure that happens. And, I will tell you, warning that town meeting was $1,400. Nothing about the budget that you would be warning or discussing would have changed from the last public hearing. You would simply be making adjustments after the meeting that was held after the public hearing. And again, the advice from our attorney in working and speaking with the governor's office was that we did not need to hold another public hearing.
Okay, thank you for that. Um,
Could I just ask, seriously, the legal notice that you have to put in to warn, in how many papers is that?
One paper. And I will tell you,
100?
Stephanie, it's not typically that expensive. It usually runs us about close to $650. The Chronicle is short-staffed, and that's where we do it. So they farmed out some of the work. We work with the same people all of the time and can say to them, here's the document, fit it into the smallest space you can. This one took up about a quarter of a page because they contracted out the work. And by the time it was all said and done, it was a whopping $1,400. It was certainly large enough for everybody to read, but that's where we lose control.
Mike?
So,
I think we can certainly entertain this hearing idea and discuss it more. I would say that I would be much more concerned if this updated information was going to create a negative impact on the taxpayers. At least this is likely to create a positive impact. So I feel at least better about that. I think I heard another voice in here somewhere.
You did, Mike. It was me.
Oh, Pete, go ahead.
And unfortunately, I disagree with the first selectman. I believe we should be having a second public hearing for $1.7 million. I think that's an impact on the community that the community really needs to entertain and be informed on. I understand that she believes that the present to speak at the beginning covers that, and that it is quite candidly a positive impact on our budget. However, if they had had that information prior to the last public hearing, I think that would have played into my decision on whether I think we need a second public hearing. And this is going to sound way more aggressive than I intended to, but the first selectman told us at our meeting following the public hearing that she had just received that information, and that's why she hadn't presented it prior to the public hearing. However, in the first selectman minutes the night before, she had announced it to them. So I think that she had 12 or 14 hours to at least get us that information and let us mull that over prior to the public hearing, allow the public to digest it. And I think that they need the public at large needs a chance to input. And so I'm fully in support of a second public hearing.
Okay, other board discussion?
Yeah, so I think that we should have a second public hearing, mostly because I think it's 850. If you just take the 1.7 million, which we're supposedly entitled to in some way, shape, or form, we're not really sure how yet. That's $850,000 a year. I think the people of Wellington deserve to know how we're going to do this. I mean, is it going to be, what impact does this have? Does it change the way we do things? How does it change them? Just more information is good. And presenting that to the people for their comments, I think is a positive way to go.
I think that there is potentially a lot of good information to share with the public, and it is, after all, their information, their decision. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot yet. So I guess in my mind anyway, I think we should be reserving the opportunity, not by taking an official action so much tonight, but by sort of consensus that we're wary of this situation. We're watching it to see what happens next. If guidance comes in and it looks like it's not going to have a lot of impact on the budget, that may change how we go, but that will be cutting it tight at May 11th. If the guidance comes in May 11th, we're going to be pretty close. So I guess my feeling is, at least for tonight, I'm not sure that we can make a decision, because we don't even know when we would set the date for, because we don't know what information we're going to get or how fast we're going to get it. I don't know. That's my feeling on it.
And Mike, I just want to be clear. We're not spending $1.7 million
Right.
or offsetting the budget by $1.7 million. It's whether or not they're COVID related funds that, had we known the guidance, would never have made it into a budget that would have been presented at that budget hearing.
Right.
If we thought we could take those items out of that budget, they would not have been included. But absent guidance, we put them there. So we're not talking about spending $1.7 million. We're not even getting 1.7 million in the first batch of funding. So you're talking about the budget that was presented, and then whether or not you need to include all of the dollars in that budget that we had originally thought. And so that's what the budget that was presented at a public hearing did not change. A budget was presented, and this board could then make adjustments to that budget based on new information. And that's why our attorney said we didn't change the process or alter the process. We simply paused where we left off.
I have a question. When are we going to know or have an idea of the different budget items and what we spent on COVID, so that we have some, even if it's just draft form, preliminary draft, some idea.
Well,
now all I know is that we've spent money on COVID and we're going to be reimbursed for it. We've had conversations at different.
My understanding from previous meetings, and we've talked about this quite a bit, is that the town has tracked those things. The things that they have been able to observe and know are directly COVID related, unusual expenses, things like that. As the fire departments did when they had to buy extra PPE and stuff, and a lot of that ended up getting provided by the state, but regardless, it was tracked. Because we have no idea what the parameters of this batch of $1.7 million will include, we cannot yet define what might be either already spent or what we could be spending that would apply to that. So we can't make a comprehensive list. In other words, we can't make it shovel ready because we don't know the size of the shovel.
I can give you an idea, Matt, of one of the things.
Hang on a second, Erica, hang on a second. I've got hands up. Pete, hang on a second. I've got hands up ahead of you. Stephanie.
Yeah, I can make this point later if we want to talk more about this point, Mike. I'm fine with that. I was going to bring up something about the assistance to small businesses and stuff. I was going to go into some of the things that are that we do know.
All right, Pete.
I just wanted to reiterate that I agree with your statement 3 statements ago that we're not dealing with enough information here to decide whether we're having a meeting or not. We need to have that information first. And I don't think that we should either rule it out or schedule it at this point. And given the movement that could occur, I think that we need to wait, and I think we should be as transparent as possible with our community and let them know what's happening. And that's a town meeting to my mind.
Thank you. Erica, you were going to respond on some of the guidance.
Yeah, I can give you, I apologize, I'm not in my office, so I don't have all of those items in front of me. For instance, the Microsoft Office computer project to the tune of $39,000. That's important for us to move forward for a multitude of reasons. And one, COVID related, is so that our staff can work from home and remotely more effectively going forward. So that's an item that had we had clear guidance on this, I would not have included in this budget. It's a one-time expense that won't later on throw us over a fiscal cliff. So just to give you an idea, the library upgrade could be an expense that could be used in that instance as well, Matt. So some of those things we would not have included. They have to be COVID related, very broad reasoning, and use will be narrowed down. There were very specific uses of the funds in the first round of funding that we had in the CRF grant. And so not everything we had was covered between FEMA and CRF. And so, additional postage for things, an additional cost of a meeting is a COVID related expense, but those aren't necessarily items that we budgeted for and would be in our budget. So things like how we can help small businesses is not something that we would talk about as part of the budget process, because those things are not in our budget. So as far as the budget process and where we are in that, those things wouldn't be something that we would be discussing then to move forward with the budget. And Peter, there would be, regardless of whether or not another public hearing is held, there would be a town meeting. There has to be a town meeting per our budget ordinance, and there would be another public forum for the public to discuss and hear about the budget before it moves to referendum.
And
That's tough.
Those, and those amounts that you were kind of mentioning, it would be good though, Eric, if there were some way that we could sort of project what all those COVID related, like kind of get, you know, a basic idea of what that sum is. But I think the one for the Microsoft Office was around 39,000, something like that. And the library upgrade was, I think their budget grew something like 33,000, if I'm not mistaken. They were asking for 90. We fell into about a third of what they were asking for. The other thing I'm feeling, because the reason I think that's important is while we're waiting for all this guidance, let's be proactive about what information we get for ourselves about what we need. You know, for instance, I patronize the two of the restaurants in town. Hilltop has not been providing lunch. They open at 3 on weekdays at least, and River and Rail has, like, you know, 2 tables filled at lunchtime, and they're doing basically breakfast through lunch. Then they're with a truncated menu for everything. So I guess when it says specifically hospitality, small business, you know, that part of this money is to go to those things. I think we need, and clearly we're a town that needs to look at our economic development. I think maybe the Economic Development Commission, or maybe there are other people who are town employees or whatever, can start reaching out to some of these businesses in town and capture some of what they're up against. Because I really don't understand how a restaurant can operate this long with what they've been through already without some assistance. So I'm just thinking there are things that we should be doing while we're waiting for guidance. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how that looks. I mean, I personally would be happy to serve in some way if needed, or, you know, but definitely we should reach out to economic development and say, can you poll the players and see what they've been up against, what kind of decline in revenue they've seen this year, and how that money might augment that. I don't know if that's a Board of Finance thing. I just feel like it's a health of the town thing.
I think it's downstream Board of Finance, because the economic health of the town certainly affects us. It's not a direct Board of Finance responsibility or program, though.
Right.
It's not within the budget. It's not within our purview, but certainly it's something we can be concerned about. I think it's appropriate that we say, hey, this is an opportunity to help our town, in the end, helping our budget.
I guess what I'm thinking is, as people who are in the part of the process of financing and running the town and everything, is with this particular thing happening, which is unprecedented. What is our process for pivoting and moving fast on using this money? I mean, it just feels like, you know, we need to be developing a process, and that is administrative and governmental. So I don't know who's doing that, or I know Erica probably has a lot of thoughts on it, but I'd just like to see us start being aggressive about figuring that out.
I believe Erica, just in the conversations that I've had with her, I believe she has been thinking about that quite a bit, and trying to figure out how to, within an absence of information, being in a position to react to the information as soon as it's available. She and I had a very brief discussion about the possibility of her even bringing on temporary help during the process in sort of a grant writer type of a role, or someone who could help with taking all the parameters of this plan once it's available and looking through all our budget, working with the finance department, with Donna, to determine any areas that we could apply this money into the town, whether it's in the budget process or in things that are off budget, or even in community assistance. And it was a very brief conversation, but that was the conversation that Eric and I had. That she was considering these as possibilities on how we would be able to react and make sure we get the most amount of that money that's available to us.
Would we be, like, for instance, the assistance to households, would we be doing that through our family services department?
It's something we have to determine as a town staff. Certainly, a larger town with different needs would be looking at, maybe small loans to people. And so there's a multitude of ways in which we can use this money to help people and our businesses. I think spending on things that we're looking at currently right now is the least of how we'll spend those dollars. But we have to think about spending it smart so that we don't put ourselves off a fiscal cliff later. We don't want to go out and hire, 5 new staff members in the town office building. We'd hire someone on a short-term basis. For instance, and one of the ideas that we discussed is hiring someone to manage these grants, because between the town and schools, it is a considerable amount of work. And just the small grants that we did have prior to this was a lot of work on our finance department. So on top of the day-to-day workings of the town, there's a lot of work to be done in that office. So you bring someone in short term. We have till 2024, December 31st at the end of that year to spend these dollars. So it's not, we're going to get it this year and next summer, and we need to hurry up and spend it all. And we need to think about how we spend it. It's not going anywhere. But once we have those bigger guidelines, pull a group of people. I've been having conversations thus far, and then we'll be able to pull a group together to really make sure we're using it in the best possible way to help, not just within our government departments, but as a whole, and our townspeople and our residents and some of those. One of the things that came from Eastern Highlands that I'm looking at is one suggested way we can give back. And it's not a lot of money. It certainly isn't any, we're close to what they need, but refunding the service fees that restaurants have to pay to the health department. They've already paid those this year. Could we help offset those costs? So little things like that. The discussions are surrounding, and then it will just get bigger. So we have to really get creative and thoughtful, but once we have more specific guidelines, we'll be able to have a more serious conversation.
Thank you.
Just to stick with 1B here, the remainder of the budget process, Erica, so the budget process we had already laid out before, the calendar we laid out before, in part continues as it was, correct, to handle Region 19. So the May 4th, I believe it is. I can't see my calendar from here, sorry.
Yeah, so the Region 19 will warn that referendum, and that will still happen. But it will be just Region 19 because we haven't held a town meeting, which we have to do before holding a referendum. So the next step, let's say, if we picked up right where you left off, is your board would tackle what you now have listed as items 2A and B. And then it would move to a town meeting, and then the town meeting would adjourn to referendum. So those are the next steps.
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit. I want to stick with just the Region 19 thing for now so that I understand it correctly.
Mhm.
Do we need to have a Willington town meeting before the Region 19
No.
referendum? Okay, so
We held a public hearing and they warned the meeting. It's up to the region. It's not ours to do.
the public hearing we already had is adequate for that.
Correct. They hold
Sorry,
a
let me just
separate,
finish.
I'm sorry, they hold a separate,
Okay.
everything about them is separate from us, Mike. We don't hold a public hearing for them, they do.
Yes, okay, I need to ask the question this way so that I get this right, okay? Please, just bear with me. We do not need to take any action from the Board of Finance to continue that process, correct? They
Correct.
handle everything. We don't have to schedule any more meetings or the referendum. This process is just gonna happen. We still have to do those things for our budget, but for Region 19, we're hands off now.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank
Yeah.
you. I know. I need
They,
to-
just so you know, they had already held a public hearing, and the night of our public hearing, they were holding their Board of Education meeting where they adopted the budget to move to referendum. So now we're
Okay.
just waiting for that warning.
Okay, so as far as Region 19, we don't have to do anything else. It's fine. We're not gonna mess it up by not doing anything.
Correct.
Thank you. All right.
You're
Anything else on 1B?
Not for me.
Anybody else on the board on 1B?
when are we going to have more input from the governor? I mean, I think you guys said is it May 11th? No.
May 11th is the guidance on the American Rescue Plan. There are regular conversations that Erica's having with representatives from the state about all of this, all sorts of stuff. Erica, feel free to add to
Yeah,
it.
we're really pushing, and when I say we, I mean other town leaders and through CCM and cost, and even NCL, really pushing the Treasury to get us some information. So anything we can get sooner, because it's not just Wellington, it's 169 towns and cities in the state are in the budget process now. So the timing of this just didn't work in our favor, and that's why the governor's office made the executive order to extend the process so that we could get guidance. But Matt, the Treasury has 60 days from the adoption of the plan, which is March 11th, to get the guidance and turn the money over to the state. So if by May 11th that money's there and there's no guidance, you're going to hear more screaming than you can imagine, because it's very frustrating. While I appreciate they're taking a lot of time, it's a lot of money to spend. It's, trillions of dollars. And we want it to be clear.
Yeah, I think I'd really like to see the Department of our Economic Development Commission reach out to businesses in a broad manner, broad meaning all of them, not just the ones we're aware of or the big ones or anything like that, all of them. And ask them about COVID and the impact on their business so that we have some data to use to decide. Because we're going to have, I mean, let's face it, we're going to have two silos here. One is going to be public, and the other one's going to be private. And the public one is going to be all the expenses from the town of Wellington and spending on, I guess, sewers and water was one of the things we could spend money on. Well, that's great, but someone's going to have to make the decision about how we split that up. And having some data from economic development and direct reach out to our business community, as small as it is here in Wellington, would be a great idea. So.
Okay, moving on to 1C. I think we've probably covered most of this already. Update on the federal funding, the American Rescue Plan. We were very clear on the guidance deadline is May 11th. We hope to get it sooner. Erica, do you have anything else to add on the American Rescue Plan, or have we covered it?
I don't have anything. I wish I had something more to share. I feel like all I'm doing is telling you to stand by.
Yes.
But we ask the same questions to the people that are talking to the feds, and they're not getting any more answers than we are. So everyone is ready to talk about the guidance. We just need the actual guidance.
Okay, anything else from board members on item 1C?
Yeah, this is Brenda. How are you?
Hi, Brenda.
Hi. So I just wanted to reiterate that I am in agreement with Peter and with Matt about a public hearing. And I think that actually would fall under the COVID guidelines because it would be a Zoom meeting. So that even though it would be $1,400, I think it would be a well-spent $1,400. And it would fit underneath the COVID guidelines of the money. So I think it's really important that we have that.
Okay, anything
So
else? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just want the public to, be aware of the entire picture of what's going on. That's all. Thank you.
Anything else on 1C?
Yeah, it's Jeff. Everybody has talked about, various departments keeping track of their quote unquote COVID expenses. Let's see them. It should be an easy thing to tally up.
Yes.
I can tell you it is, and we do have listings. We've already gotten reimbursed for, the money we got from the CRF. So there's an absolute accounting of every dollar we spend, and the things that we spent COVID related, that we got reimbursement prior to this. We really kept our expenses down. Once there was no additional COVID related funds, tried to stick within our budget at this point. So we haven't spent any large amounts of money on COVID related items. We were able to do most of that with our CRF. the plexiglass changes that we put up in the town hall and hand sanitizers and PPE, et cetera.
Okay, let's move on to old business 2, tabled items from previous meeting. I will start this off by making a motion that we again table budget adjustments until a time to be determined based on the information.
I'll
I will
second that.
second that.
All right, discussion on the motion. I think this is exactly what we've been talking about so far tonight. We have the potential of a positive impact and the potential anyway of budget adjustments or of it leading us to effects on our budget. So I think we hold off a little bit longer until we have a better idea what that is. Other discussion? All right, I'm gonna take that as time for a vote. Pete Tanaka,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes,
Stephanie,
Yes,
Jeffrey,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Motion passes. Okay. Again, for the sake of discussion, I move we table the adoption of the 21 to 22 budget. Sorry, little typo there.
Second.
Until a time to be determined.
Second.
Seconded by Peter. Discussion on this motion. Okay, we're gonna vote. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Stephanie,
yes,
Matt,
yes,
and I am a yes. Motion passes. Okay, new business. Board of Finance representative for town contract negotiations. Erica, would you clarify which employee groups this covers, please?
Do we just have one union in the town? And it includes Public Works, except for 2, it's everyone but department heads in the town office building. So we have reached out to the union. We've not heard back from the union. Typically, they send a demand to negotiate. That still hasn't happened. So we have done that with them. And so I don't have any dates for you, but we do need, we would like a representative from this board.
Pete?
Yeah, Mike, I don't believe we were warned on this before the adoption of the agenda. We did hear about somebody to be sitting in on the negotiations with the town of Union, and that's not on this agenda. So we got warned of something that didn't appear, and we didn't get warned of something that did appear, and I'm a little distraught about that. How's that?
Okay, so there may be a misunderstanding, but I can't get into my email to check, but I thought the email was that it was negotiating with the town union.
The town, right, the town
Town
union.
employee union,
Oh.
not the town of Union.
It had something to do with the ambulance, so I read it.
No,
as
there was-
town
No, I think that's another email. But I
That's all we,
emails to,
This is our union contract, the town employees union.
well, we got that, but I know you can't open any, but nobody can open their email now, which is great, but the only thing I saw was for the ambulance contract with the town of Union. So,
all right, well, let's see. I just got into my email. Stand by.
Yeah.
but we talked in the budget process about this contract coming up, right? It's not a surprise to us. Is that what we're discussing?
I'm not sure what you thought you needed to be warned about, Peter. It's a public meeting and a public item, so you do your business here. I sent a request for a representative from the Board of Finance. on the town's negotiation for the union contract. This is nothing to do with the town of Union or ambulance.
The email I got actually says Town of Union on it. That's why I was surprised that's not involved here. I can ship that email back to you, Mike, if you need it.
I'm looking at emails right now. Just bear with me, please.
I'm bearing with you.
Thank you. So on Tuesday, April 13th, I received an email from Erica saying formally inviting the Board of Finance to select a representative. That was 9:38 on the 13th. At 10:43 on the 13th, I responded to Erica and said, I received that request. We'll pursue a representative for this. Also, I've not seen any communication with the Town of Union re-ambulance funding. So there were 2 items on that email. And then let's see. Meeting materials. 4 minutes later on Tuesday, I sent an email to the entire board and I attached, I attached that exact email to it. So at 10:43 on Tuesday, you received an email that had attached to it my email response to Erica's request for this representative.
Yes, that's true. However, I only got the second half that says something about the Town of Union. I did not get the top part of that.
It's all in the same.
Reading it,
email.
it's now apparent that there's a second half that wasn't attached on top.
It's all the same email.
Yeah, but I only got I have received the request to pursue a representative for this as soon as possible. Also, I have not seen any communication with the Town of Union ambulance service funding. Could you
Yes,
update me with that? That's the
can you
first
scroll-
email I got. I didn't get hers with what you've requested for on the top. So
Okay, Pete.
I may be in error here, but I didn't receive that part on that. So
Pete.
Did you scroll down?
All right. Pete, look at that email that you just read to me that says they
Yep.
had 2 comments and scroll down. The rest of the email is right below it. It's all the same piece of paper in electronic form, of course.
all right, I got it. I only saw the top 2 parts. I didn't
Okay.
see it.
All right. So, and I can.
That is my error. I apologize profusely.
It's the pain of reading bottom up, Pete.
Yeah, I not getting there.
I move that we tell the Town of Union to change its name.
Well, let's consider this a lesson learned for me too. I'm going to be very clear about the difference between the Town Union and the Town of Union. I will try to make sure when I talk about the Town Union, I don't capitalize the word union as well. That might help a little. Okay, so back to this agenda item. Do we have someone interested in representing the Board of Finance on the negotiations with the town labor bargaining union, not the Town of Union? Pete Tanaka, I figured for sure you were going to raise your hand for this.
I didn't want to self-sacrifice. I am willing to do this, but I'm not going to move that I myself fall on the sword.
I move that the Board of Finance approves Pete Tanaka to represent the board in the negotiations with the town bargaining unit.
Second.
Discussion?
All of you.
Well, I'll leave it alone. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, we're gonna vote.
Did he actually accept?
It's not his to accept.
He already said he would, that before I made the motion.
He wants us to
Tanaka,
grovel a little bit.
Pete Tanaka, how do you vote on the motion?
Will abstain.
All right, Pete abstained. It won't help you.
I know that. I am well aware.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Matt, Matt,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
and a hearty yes from me.
I thank you for all for your confidence.
Okay. Correspondence, hopefully, I do believe we've clarified the correspondence is out. And I don't think that, I did just get into email as you all experienced a moment ago, and I don't believe there is anything new. No, there is not anything new. Okay. Present to speak.
Oh, Mike,
Go ahead, Steph.
before present to speak, could I just say something overall that I didn't see where it would fit under there, but I want to, it's related to the American Rescue spending that's ahead of us?
You want to, yes.
Or good and, it could be good and welfare, because I'm going to compliment another member of the board, but.
Okay, we'll do that in good and welfare. We'll have a purpose for good and welfare. There we go.
So should I wait for present to speak, or can I say it now?
Do you want to do it in good?
I
and
mean, should I wait for good and welfare or?
Sure,
Okay.
sure, if you'd like. Okay. Okay, present to speak. Those who are in video, feel free to wave your hand. Otherwise, if you are not providing video, feel free to unmute and call out your name. Okay, good and welfare. Stephanie, do you have
Oh,
something?
thank you. Well, what a surprise. Well, I just, I wanted to say something about, because we haven't talked about this much, we're really good at a town, we're good at, as town leadership in terms of being fiscally, careful about our spending. We spend a lot of time on cutting money out of budgets and trying to, steer the town to do smart spending. I don't feel that that we're really versed in how to spend money well when it does come our way. I think it's partly because it doesn't happen that often. So we're sort of in this one mode. And I just want to urge us to be, as aggressive about spending our money wisely that's coming our way and being prepared for it, thinking creatively, doing the most that we can with it, and be as rigorous as we can with figuring that out. And I would like to quote the great Broadway figure, Dolly Levi from Hello, Dolly, who says, money, pardon the expression, is like manure. It's not worth a thing unless it's spread around, encouraging young things to grow. So hello, Dolly. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, for my good and welfare comments, continue to take care of yourselves as we are experiencing spring and some other positive signs. Let's take care of each other and our community and get back to health carefully. And thank you, as always, to everyone on this group and to the public for their participation.
I forgot to compliment the member. And it's Jeff. Because last meeting, he said something that's just been making me think all week. He was talking about, we're fearful of the guidance and the overhang of what that's going to mean for us. And none of us want to mess up with this money coming in. But he said something like, hey, they're not exactly going to come out and audit all these towns about how you use the money, because that's not what this is about. This is about, helping young things to grow, if you will. And I think he's absolutely right. I think we could be sort of frozen in the headlights because of the bureaucracy of doing this, because it's a big thing and we haven't ever done this before. So I just appreciated that comment, because I think unless we, that we of course should hold off of doing anything untoward, or no one should build a pool in their backyard with this money. But, if we stop short of anything like that, I think that there's going to be a lot of openness for how it's spent.
Thank you.
I guess I'll take that. I didn't really mean it that quite that way, but I'll accept that.
I went with it, Jeff. I'm like, I know it's not all what you said, but.
Okay. we've stretched good and welfare to well past its normal limits. So let's, Peter,
I would move to adjourn.
can we get a second for that?
Second.
Jeff seconded. Okay, everyone say aye by waving goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Meeting is
Aye,
adjourned at 8:02.